176 days from now, your income taxes are going up. It's already written into law. If Congress does absolutely nothing, current income tax rates will expire on New Year's Eve, and on January 1st, income taxes will automatically go up. It will be a huge tax increase. On January 1st, everyone, except those currently in the 15% bracket, will see their income taxes go up. The biggest income tax increase will actually hit the lowest bracket, the lowest income earners. Those in the 10% bracket will see their rates go up 50%. By comparison, all of those in the top income tax bracket will see their rates go up only 13%. And no one in Congress or the White House wants to see all of this happen. But President Obama does want to see this happen. He wants to see the top two brackets go up, but only the top two. He wants to prevent all the other brackets from going up. In order to stop all of this from happening, 176 days from now, Congress has to pass a bill preventing it from happening. The Republicans want to pass a bill preventing all of this from happening, and the Democrats and the president want to pass a bill preventing most of this from happening, but allowing the top two rates to go up. Now, if any of you spent your 4th of July holiday doing your Christmas shopping and your friends told you you're crazy, you should listen to your friends. You have plenty of time for Christmas shopping. You have 169 shopping days left till Christmas. But if you're Congress and you've got 176 legislative shopping days left to pass the biggest tax legislation in years, then you better get to work on it right now. Don't wait until the last minute as we approach this fiscal cliff. You're going to be hearing that phrase a lot, a fiscal cliff, between now and January 1st, because in addition to the tax increase scheduled for January 1st, there is also a large cut, $500 billion in defense spending scheduled to go into law on January 1st. The combination of big government spending cuts and a big tax increase is the fiscal cliff that many economists fear would be such a negative jolt to the economy that would slow down our economic recovery. So neither party, Democrat or Republican, wants to go off the fiscal cliff on January 1st. To avoid the fiscal cliff, not only do they have to write a new tax bill, but they have to write a new defense spending bill and pass them both before January 1st, and they have only 176 legislative shopping days to do it. So if you want Congress to do something before January 1st and you start talking about it right now, you would not be jumping the gun. You would not be doing your Christmas shopping in July. If you need Congress to do something by New Year's Eve, you don't start talking to them in December. You start talking to them today. And that's what the president did today in the East Room of the White House.
I'm not proposing anything radical here. I just believe that anybody making over $250,000 a year should go back to the income tax rates we were paying under Bill Clinton. Back when our economy created nearly 23 million new jobs, the biggest budget surplus in history, and plenty of millionaires to boot.
The president urged Congress to take action on what they can agree on, which is all of these tax rates except for the top tax rates, and leave what they disagree on to be dealt with after the election.
In many ways, the fate of the tax cut for the wealthiest Americans will be decided by the outcome of the next election. My opponent will fight to keep them in place. I will fight to end them.
In other words, the president is saying, let's pass a bill preserving all of the tax rates that we agree on, and let's let the voters decide on what to do with the top tax rates. Re-elect the President Obama, and the rates will go up slightly, only a few percentage points. Elect Mitt Romney, and let him do a day one tax cut for the highest income earners. Now, Mitt Romney, of course, hates that idea. The sensible, reasonable businessman that he is doesn't want to reach an agreement on everything they already agree on, which is most of the tax rates. He doesn't want to reach an agreement with the president on everything they agree on. He wants to keep the fight over all of the tax rates together. And Republicans agree with him on this because they know if they pass a bill on the tax rates that they agree with the president on, which is most of them, then everyone will be able to see that the real fight is over nothing but lowering the top tax rates a few points. That's all Republicans really care about. But Mitt Romney knows he can't go out there and say, look, we shouldn't make a deal on doing what we agree on because that will expose the fact that we really only care about the top income tax rates. So instead of saying that, his handlers gave him this to say.
What the president's proposing is therefore a massive tax increase on job creators and on small business. Small businesses are overwhelmingly being taxed not at a corporate rate, but at the individual tax rate. So successful small businesses will see their taxes go up dramatically, and that will kill jobs.
And with the Obama campaign trying to turn this week into tax week in the campaign, it seems like the perfect time to remind American voters that no matter what Congress does with income tax rates, Mitt Romney will still pay less than the lowest income tax rate.
The next president, in the next 4 years, somebody's going to have to tackle comprehensive tax reform. And they're going to have to deal with sheltering income like it appears Mitt Romney is doing in Bermuda, in the Caymans, in Switzerland. When I pick a bank, I pick one near my house because there's an ATM that I can get some cash out of. I don't think you're picking a bank in Switzerland because there's an ATM near your house.
Joining me now, our co-host of MSNBC's The Cycle, Crystal Ball, and Steve Kornacki. Crystal, the idea that you would get an anti-tax candidate running with a Swiss bank account, with money in the Cayman Islands, with all of this, it's never been this convenient for the Democrats. It's always been a very awkward subject for the Democratic candidate who is trying to be more responsible on taxation. Romney makes this a sweet spot for the Obama campaign.
It's beautiful. And then when you add to that the Hamptons fundraisers this weekend and all of the wonderful quotes that came out of that, and you ask the American people, okay, do you really want to finance a tax cut for these people? I think the answer becomes very clear. And the response that, oh, we need comprehensive tax reform, I mean, he just has, and the Republican Party has absolutely no credibility on seriously wanting comprehensive tax reform. Do we really want to trust the guy who's got his money parked in the Cayman Islands to close tax loopholes for us? That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Let's listen to what Mitch McConnell said about the way he thinks this tax situation should be handled.
We've got the fiscal cliff coming at the end of the year. What we ought to be doing is extend the current tax rates for another year with a hard requirement to get through comprehensive tax reform one more time.
Oddly enough, Steve, he wants to do exactly what he's proposed doing in the past, which is, why don't we just extend the current tax rates, otherwise known as the Bush tax cuts?
Right, and then when comprehensive tax reform drags out or hits a dead end, we say,
we can't them again.
We can't let these things expire. But I think it's worth putting in perspective, and I mean, your history with the Senate Finance Committee, you'd understand this, what Obama is trying to pull off here. It has been 22 years, 1990, since a single Republican in the House or the Senate signed off on an income tax increase. And the last time that happened was 1990, and it caused a rebellion in the Republican Party. And it led to Pat Buchanan challenging George Bush in 1992, and it led to Newt Gingrich's rise, and all of these things. And so we're going to come to a moment here after the election. Let's say Obama gets reelected. Republicans are basically going to have to choose. They're still going to control the House no matter what in that lame duck session, and they're going to have to decide, are we willing to cave on this? Are we willing to cave on 22 years of absolute rigidity on taxes, in the interest of sparing 98% of the people a tax hike? Or are we going to back off and say, no, if we can't have it all, we're going to allow a tax hike to take place?
Well, and the corollary to that is the president ready to go to the mat over this? Is he willing to let those bottom income tax rates of the 98% go up in order to not raise rates on the top percents? So, I mean, that's the other piece. And he and Robert Gibbs have been very clear that they are not going to be held hostage this time, and I think they are willing to go to the mat this time, whereas the last negotiation, I don't think they were willing to, and instead they used it as a bargaining chip to get other things that they wanted.
Well, it is very different from the last one, and what I'm hearing from some Democratic senators, and now even from some Republican senators, is something they will not say publicly, is that they are willing. In fact, some of them believe they need to go off the cliff on January 1st. They need to allow the tax rates to expire, have every rate go up, including the bottom rate to go up, in order to then, on January 2nd, put real pressure on Congress, including Republicans in Congress, to pass some kind of adjustment to this. Without the power of actually having the rates increase, some Democrats believe they won't be able to get anything. In other words, once all the rates have increased, everything you do after that is a tax cut, even if you're only reducing, 4 out of the 6 rates.
Right, and there's your way around that Republican.
And some Republicans are secretly saying, we need you to do that. That's the only way we'll be able to vote responsibly.
Yeah, and I look at a
tiny number of Republicans.
And let's be honest, there are some Democrats to consider here, because the Democrats will control the Senate in the lame duck session. And that means you're going to still have Ben Nelson. He won't be retired yet. Joe Lieberman voting with the Democrats. He's still there. You got a guy like Tester. Maybe, let's say Tester gets reelected. Is he going to want to be voting for anything that could be perceived as a tax hike? So you're going to have to deal with these people too in the Senate on the Democratic side. So the logic you're talking about works for them too.
Yeah, there are Democratic senators who learned this lesson the hard way last time around, which is if we let it go to the last minute and we need a deal, we won't get one. But if we let it go to the last minute and let them know it's okay with us if we don't get a deal, they will see, the Republicans will see, okay, now you're going to put us in an impossible position in January.
It is a game of chicken.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If they actually show, no, we're willing to go over the cliff, then not only do you have that stronger bargaining position, but I think, as you're saying, you give a lot of conservative Democrats in red or purple states and Republicans who have signed on to this Grover Norquist pledge, you do give them an out. So I think that actually makes a lot of sense.
And Steve, the great thing politically, and I never thought I'd be saying this about a Democratic candidate for president, the great thing politically for the Democratic candidate for president in talking about taxes is that you get always to bring it back to Mitt Romney's tax returns, especially the ones that we have not seen.
Right. Oh, no, and I think right now in this campaign, talking about the Bush tax cuts, talking about doing away with them for the wealthy, I think this is a political winner for Obama right now. But I am reminded of the experience of Bill Clinton, 1992, campaigned on the idea of we're going to ask the top 2%, we're going to ask the wealthy to pay a little bit more. The people that got rich under, Reagan Bush, the people that benefited disproportionately, we're going to ask them to pay more. That's what Clinton ran in 92. It was popular in 92. When he turned around and did it in 93, he only raised taxes in the top 1.8%. It got sold by Republicans as the biggest tax increase in the history of the world, and there was a revolt in 94. So the public attitude in these things is funny. I think Obama's on solid ground here, but I'm really curious when push comes to shove in December and maybe into January how it gets perceived by the voters.
But Steve, they've already bought into the Affordable Care Act as the largest tax increase in the history
it'll
of
become the second largest.
Oh, yeah. It depends where you are on the calendar.
The slot's already taken.
When it was the biggest. But yeah, the Romney liability on taxation seems to me to be politically unique. I mean, even we've had wealthy Republican presidents before, George H.W. Bush, wealthy family, but their personal wealth was never perceived to be part of their actually governing decisions. I mean, Bush had Republican philosophy about taxation. You saw very rich Democrats who actually had a non-self-interested tax policies. The fact that these policies are all to Romney's own self-interest is the peculiar part of this politics.
I think it's that, and I don't think it's his wealth that's the problem. I do think it's the fact, as you pointed out, that he's paying a lower income tax rate than the lowest marginal income tax rate. He has all these, offshore accounts, Swiss bank accounts, Cayman Islands, Bahamas, and there's this terrible contrast that he has also with his father, who was exactly the opposite, who was the model of transparency, releasing 12 years of his income taxes, saying that it could be a fluke if you only released 1 year. And Paul Krugman is writing today that at the time they were reporting actually George Romney was going out of his way to not take advantage of the loopholes in the tax system, and as a result, he was paying 36% for 37%. It's all the exact opposite of Mitt Romney, and I think Americans feel, okay, yes, you're following the letter of the law, But there's a difference between a legalistic argument and a moral argument. Do you really believe in America? Do you really believe the things you're saying when you're exploiting these loopholes to your own benefit?
Crystal Ball and Steve Kornacki, thanks for joining me tonight. Especially you, Steve, coming in on dry cleaner day when your jacket. I so appreciate that.
It's upstairs.
I so appreciate that.
I'm scared of the dark.
Thank you both very much for joining me tonight. Coming up, what do tax rates mean for job creation? Ezra Klein joins me next. And in the rewrite tonight, remember when Jon Stewart went on a CNN show just to say how bad that show was? Well, we've got a perfectly good excuse to show you that video again tonight. That's coming up.